Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome here to the Sugarman Sports Complex here in Fort Lee, New Jersey. It is a rivalry showdown with a possible league championship on the line here today as Cliffside Park comes calling to take on your Fort Lee Bridgemen. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Long. So glad you could join us here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel for another edition of Bridgemen Baseball this spring. Fort Lee sitting in first place in the Big North American Division with a perfect 6-0 divisional record, taking on Cliffside Park, who comes in 4-2 in league play. These two teams are going to renew acquaintances here today and then in a couple days' time on Wednesday in Cliffside Park. But on the line here for Fort Lee with a win for the Bridgemen, they will capture outright the league championship. They already have guaranteed themselves at least a share of the league title, but one win, that's all they need against Cliffside Park, and that will assure them an outright Big North American title. On the mound here today for Fort Lee is going to be number 12, Bradley Lee, as he gets his warm-up tosses in. Bradley is a junior. On the season, he's 4-2 with a stellar 1.17 ERA. He's pitched 30 innings of work, giving up 25 hits, 15 runs. Only 5 of the 15, though, have been earned. 32 strikeouts, 16 walks on the season. He has been the ace of the pitching staff for Fort Lee this season, led by head coach Pete Kraljic. For Cliffside Park, they're led by their head coach, Mike Scarzafava. They're 10-11 on the season. They lost to Ramsey 10-4 in the opening round of the Bergen County tournament and then lost subsequently to Hackensack 2-0 in the Bergen Invitational tournament. They began their season 2-4 on the season, and now they are trying to really make sure that they could be a part of the state postseason as they come in ranked 11th in power points in North 1 Group 3. Fort Lee right now would be the 3 seed in the state postseason. Another win here would not only lock up a league title, but maybe assure them of enough power points to stay in that top 4, which would mean a couple of first round, a couple of home games in the state postseason. So we'll get to our leadoff batter here today, and that's going to be the shortstop for the Red Raiders of Cliffside Park in number 2, Caden Moeller. Moeller will step in and hit from the right side. He's a senior hitting .236 on the season. And the first pitch of the game is fired in for a strike by Bradley Lee as he gets ahead of the count 0-1. Moeller, .236 hitter, 1 home run, 17 RBIs on the season. The 0-1 is fouled straight back, and it's now quickly 0-2 the count against Moeller, who last time out in their game against Woodridge went 0-2, drew 3 walks, and scored a run. The 0-2. Missing off the plate on the outside for a ball, 1-2. Fort Lee in their home white uniforms. Cliffside Park in the black tops with the white pants. And there's strike 3 called. Strike 3 on the outside corner. And Bradley Lee fires up his first K of the afternoon. And there's 1 away to begin this top of the first inning. Lee, a 33rd strikeout on the season, doubling up strikeouts to balls and walks in this season. Great control as now he's going to be taking on the second place hitter in the lineup here for Cliffside Park. John Raftopoulos, number 5. He's the starting left fielder for the Red Raiders, hitting .255 on the season, 1 homer, 17 RBIs, 14 hits on the year. 1-0 missed high. It's now 2-0 the count in favor of Raftopoulos, who went 1 for 3 with a double and a run scored in their win against Woodridge. As he'll fly that out to right field. And camped out underneath that one to make the play is Greenberg, and now there's 2 away. The Fort Lee Bridgemen defense behind Bradley Lee here this afternoon. In left field, Lasval. In center is C.J. Senator. Greenberg in right field. Dorcom down at third. Luke Kim at short. Stephen Kim at second. Sango at first. And Luke Senator doing the catching. Third place hitter is the second baseman, number 1, Derek Sanchez. 302 hitter on the season. Ground ball. Gobbled up at second base, making the running throw, and in time, Stephen Kim getting it over to Sengo with the stretch. And that is a 1-2-3 inning produced by Fort Lee's Bradley Lee. And that retires Cliffside Park with their first at-bats of this game, as that will send us to the bottom of the first inning, scoreless here in Fort Lee. We'd like to thank our proud sponsors here of these Fort Lee broadcasts, the Fort Lee PBA, Cafaso's Fairway Market, The Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, Roosin and Daru Electric, Bridgemen Basketball Camp, the Fort Lee VFW, Visions Federal Credit Union, It's Greek to Me, Connect One Bank, Bergen Black Sox, Senator Builders, UCS Strength and Speed, the Collective Salon, and the Fort Lee Education Association. So a scoreless first inning for Cliffside Park, and now Fort Lee will try to produce some runs here in the bottom of the first inning. Let's meet the starting lineup here for the Bridgemen. Leading off and playing at shortstop is number 20, Luke Kim. Hitting second and doing the catching is number 1, Luke Senator. Hitting third and playing at second base is number 9, Stephen Kim. The DH hitting fourth, number 17, Chris Kim. Hitting fifth, the right fielder, Jacob Greenberg, number 11. Hitting sixth, the center fielder is number 2, CJ Senator. Hitting seventh, the third baseman, number 3, Jack Dorcom. Hitting eighth, the first baseman, number 8, Nico Sango. And hitting ninth, the left fielder, number 5, Gabe Lasval. And they'll be going against number 25, Matthew Padron, who's getting the start here today for Coach Scarzafava. Padron, 3-2 on the season with a 4.15 ERA for Cliffside Park. He's pitched 30 and a third innings of work, 35 hits, 25 runs allowed, 18 of which have been earned, 17 strikeouts with only 4 walks on the season. Padron, a sophomore. Left-hander getting ready to go against Luke Kim. As that pitch missing outside against the freshman sensation for Fort Lee, hitting .345 on the season. Bounce in the dirt, and quickly Kim now ahead of the count 2-0. Luke has produced 9 RBIs, collected 19 base hits on the season, and he went 1 for 4 with a double and a stolen base. Also picked up the win on the mound in Fort Lee's last game, a come-from-behind victory against Dwight Englewood. Now Luke Kim ahead of the count 3-0. We'll see if he'll be taking all the way here. Ahead of the count, 3 balls, no strikes. Does take that for a strike. Dropped in a bucket. It's now 3-1. Inside, and it catches the inside corner. So after falling behind 3-0, Padron has now fought his way back to run the count full at 3-2. The 3-2 pitch. That one is ricocheted into the top of the backstop, so we'll do it all over again with a full count at 3-2. Fort Lee 14-4 overall on the season. It's just been a spectacular spring here for the Bridgemen. Perfect 6-0 in divisional play, and again putting themselves in position to host a couple of potential home games in the postseason. Ground ball to short, and that's going to be a nice fielding play there by Moeller, getting it over to his first baseman. And there's one away after the 6-3 ground out by Luke Kim. Luke Senator, the hitting machine, will step up now here for Fort Lee, hitting second in the Bridgemen lineup. Senator slugging a jaw-dropping .558 batting average this season. And Senator gets hit that time with a curveball that broke outside the strike zone, so Senator will get hit by the pitch. That's the 9th time this season that Luke has been hit And he will take his base and be the first base runner of the game for either team. One out base runner down at first base is Luke Senator. Brings up the third place hitter for the Bridgemen in number 9, Stephen Kim. Kim, a junior, hitting .491 on the season as the throw over to first, not in time in the pickoff attempt. Stephen Kim, .491 average, 1 home run, 18 RBIs, 26 base hits on the season. Kim fouls that straight into the back of the backstop. 0-1 the count against him. Stephen went 2 for 4 with a double, a triple, and an RBI against Dwight Englewood. Again, that last game for Fort Lee saw the Bridgemen down by 1 heading to the bottom of the 7th inning. They rallied for 2 runs and walked off the win, and that is going to be a failed pickoff attempt, and it leads to the stolen base for Luke Senator. Senator takes second base without a throw. Aggressive base running. Cliffside Park had guessed correctly that he was going to be off. The problem was that they threw to first, and he was already all the way down to second. Now in scoring position with 1 out. Curveball missing to the outside. So after retiring Luke Kim on the ground ball out to short, Matthew Padron hits Senator. Now Senator with a stolen base down at second base with 1 out. Ground ball chopped down to third base. That's a fair ball. Throw over the diamond in time. The throw down to third after Senator patiently waited. Not going to be in time. So Senator is down at third, but there's 2 outs in the inning. 5-3 ground out by Stephen Kim. Cliffside Park defense in the outfield from left to right. Raftopoulos in left, Marine in center, and Freitas in right. Ortiz down at third, Moeller at short, Sanchez at second, Magnetico at first, and Rodriguez doing the catching. Brings up Chris Kim, number 17, the DH here today for the Bridgemen. Chris Kim hitting .370 on the season, 5 RBIs. He was hitless in 4 at-bats, also drew a walk against Dwight Englewood. Curveball missing the outside. It looks like Padron likes his curveball. He's thrown that often here in this game. 1-0 count against Christopher Kim. That time also missing on the outside. 2-0. Kim. That was a knee buckler there. He was kind of expecting fastball and got the off speed instead and went down to a knee, swinging and missing. 2-1. Runner down at third, 2 outs here. Scoreless game, bottom of the first inning. Chopter. Going to be a tough play made by the third baseman. The throw not handled in time, and that will score the first run of the game for Fort Lee. That was going to be a tough play by Ortiz, who had to charge in. It was a slow roller down the third base line. He had to throw a perfect throw in order to get Kim, who was hustling his way down the first base line. And it could not be picked off. And that is going to allow Fort Lee to score the run that gives them a 1-0 lead. E5 would be the call there with the error against the third baseman. Magnetico, the first baseman, could not pick that cleanly. Brings up number 11, Jacob Greenberg, the right fielder. Greenberg with a runner down at first and 2 away, hitting .250 on the season, the senior. 12 RBIs, 13 hits on the season. There's that off-speed breaking pitch on the outside. 2-1 the count in favor of Jacob. CJ Senator waits on deck if this inning can continue for Fort Lee. Fastball missing low and inside. It's now 3-1 the count. Greenberg has produced 12 RBIs on the season. Kim is down at first base. 3-1 missing outside, ball 4, and this inning will continue for Fort Lee. Runners now at first and second with 2 away, 1 run already home. No base hit yet in this game for Fort Lee. And that brings up C.J. Senator with runners at first and second with 2 outs here and 1 run home. Again, the costly error so far in this frame as they check in on the runner down at second. Luke Senator got hit by a pitch, stole second base, was advanced down to third on a ground ball, and then eventually scored after the fielding error. Now his brother CJ steps in. CJ hitting .238 on the season, 18 RBIs as a runner down in scoring position. Hits that into the backstop. Last time out, CJ went 2 for 4 with a run scored and a walk in the come-from-behind victory against Dwight Englewood. Has collected 18 hits on the season as well. As Christopher Kim down at second base, right behind him, Jacob Greenberg at first. Padron being forced to work here, has not given up a base hit yet in this game, but is behind 1-0. The 0-1. There's a strike on the outside edge. Senator trying to deliver here to expand upon this 1-run lead for Fort Lee in the bottom of the first. Getting a contact on that one that was low to the outside, but he still made contact to stay alive in this at-bat. We've seen again Padron really leaning on that curveball on the outside edge, trying to kind of get some wild swings. But in doing so, that's also led to a couple of slow rollers that have been really a problem for his infield to deal with in this first inning. That one's a fastball, and that one is connected on, and a looping out there as Cliffside Park had just enough to get underneath that one as it looked like it might have a chance to fall right in front of the left fielder. Raftapula is doing a nice job of making the shoestring catch, and that will retire the side, but not before Fort Lee strikes for the first run of the game. After it was a throwing error made by the third baseman, it allowed Luke Senator to score, and we head to the top of the second inning, 1-0, Fort Lee on top. Top of the second inning, 1-0 lead now for Fort Lee after a 1-2-3 inning was set up by Bradley Lee. As Cliffside Park trying to find an answer here today against one of the aces. And this Fort Lee side that, again, has a lot to play for just like Cliffside Park. Cliffside Park, though, is trying to jockey for playoff positioning. Fort Lee knows that they could take home a league championship outright here today, but also can stay within striking distance of the top two seeds that would be in North 1 Group 3. Ground ball to second base. That's going to be easily handled. And there's one away to begin the top of the second inning after Lee continues to just pepper the strike zone. So Nick Ortiz grounds out. Back-to-back outs produced on ground ball outs to second base. And that brings up Brady Marine, the center fielder. Marine, a .231 hitter on the season. 8 RBIs, 12 hits on the year for the senior, who went 1 for 3 with a double, produced 2 RBIs in their win against Woodridge last time out. One. Bounce in the dirt there, 2-1 the count. Marine has been one of the successful pitchers in this pitching staff this season for Cliffside Park. 3-2 record with a 4.69 ERA. Swing and a miss that time, as Lee will even the count at 2-2. 1 out, nobody on here in the top of the second inning. The 2-2. Missing on the outside edge. That runs the count full now at 3-2. Ground ball down to third base. That's going to be handled by Dorcom. Gets it over the diamond. And another ground ball out secured by the Bridgemen. And there's 2 away with no one on here in the top of the first inning for Cliffside Park. So 3 consecutive ground ball outs produced here by Bradley Lee. He began the game by striking out Caden Moeller looking. Then had a fly out to right field, and then back-to-back ground ball outs at second. That time an out produced at third. Curveball dropped in beautifully for a strike inside corner against Victor Freitas, the right fielder. Freitas, number 18, is a senior, hitting .281 on the season for Cliffside. 1 home run, 13 RBIs, 16 base hits on the year. But he's quickly behind 0-2. Lee working fast. Another chopper. That's a ground ball to short. Ranging over to make the play, but unable to scoop it at first. That time was Sango. Luke Kim took a little too much time to get that over from short, and that will keep the inning going and be the first base runner of the game for Cliffside Park on the E6. The error against the Fort Lee shortstop. So Luke Kim, his fielding error keeps this inning going for Cliffside Park. That's bounced in the dirt after Luke Senator does a nice job of keeping that in front of him. Brings up Cole Magnetico. The senior, he's the first baseman. Hitting .186 on the season. Was 0 for 2 with a run against Woodridge. And there's a strike there. 1-2 the count. After Bradley Lee trying to get out of the inning. Runner down at first, 2 outs. The 1-2. Low, outside, evens the count, 2-2. Two just missed to run the count full now at 3-2. That will allow the runner at first base to get a head start here as the pitch is delivered. And the 3-2 missing low to the outside, ball 4. So after this inning should have been over, the inning continues for Cliffside Park. After the error followed by a walk, And now that brings up Jose Padron, the designated hitter and the 8th hitter in the lineup here for Cliffside Park. Padron had 2 walks, scored 2 runs against Woodridge. And now Lee starting to overthrow a little bit. Missing low to the outside to 1-0. Lee gets over the curveball. Floated inside, 1-1. You always wonder in terms of the mental aspect of baseball. When you're cruising like Bradley Lee was and looked like he was going to retire the first 6 batters in a row, and then that error. Now it's going to be a tough play here, and not able to make the play that time was Dorcom on the softly hit ball, and the bases are now loaded full of Red Raiders for Cliffside Park, still with 2 outs in the inning. That is a slow-rolling base hit in the infield for Jose Padron, and that'll bring up the 9th place hitter in the lineup for Cliffside Park, Yael Rodriguez, the catcher. First base hit of the ball game for either team. Lee spikes that one. Low, 1-0. Nowhere to put Rodriguez here with the bases loaded. Rodriguez only a 164 hitter on the season. He's a freshman. Lee finding a little more accuracy with his breaking pitches right now, and that's where he gets the strike to even the count at 1-1. So an error, a walk, and an infield hit given up here by Bradley Lee. Here's a ground ball. The thrower in time, and he gets out of the inning. Dorcom settles everything down and handles it with ease at third base. So Cliffside Park challenges, but they strand 3 on base, and they still trail 1-0 as we now head to the bottom of the 2nd inning as you're watching Fort Lee Baseball, courtesy of all of our proud sponsors seen on your screen. So Fort Lee gets in and out of trouble in the top portion of the 2nd inning. That brings us to the bottom of the 2nd. 1-0 lead for the Bridgemen against arch rival Cliffside Park. And the third baseman, Jack Dorcom, will step in here for his first plate appearance of the afternoon. Dorcom is hitting .244 on the season, 7 RBIs, produced 11 hits, went 1 for 4 with a walk against White Englewood last time out. As Padron missing on a pair outside the zone, 2-0. Fort Lee scored a run without producing a base hit in that bottom of the 1st inning. Dorcom will fly that one out. Trying to call for it in center field, and making the play is Marine. And there's one away to begin the bottom of the 2nd inning. That'll bring up the first baseman, number 8, Nico Sango. Sango, the senior, hitting .238 on the season, hitting from the right side. Curveball missing outside, 1-0. Sango, .238 hitter on the season, 10 hits, 9 RBIs, has scored 8 runs as well. Missed again on the outside is Matthew Padron, 2-0. Missing low, now he's missed the first 3 offerings against Sango outside the zone. So the Fort Lee senior ahead of the count, 3-0. 3-0 breaks outside and 4 straight outside the strike zone. And there's a 1-out base runner here for Fort Lee in the bottom of the second inning. Nico Sango receiving the first free pass of the second inning. Second walk of the game issued by Matthew Padron. Brings up number 5, the left fielder and the 9th place hitter in the Fort Lee lineup, Gabe Lasval. Lasval is a junior hitting .162 on the season. He's going to bat from the left side. He had an RBI, was 0 for 3 against White Englewood last game. Beautiful curveball that time by Padron. Gets ahead of the count, 0-1 against the left-hand hitter. Luke Kim, the leadoff man, waiting on deck next year for the Bridgemen. That one just a little too low, 1-1. Fort Lee as a team has been explosive on offense this season, averaging 6.2 runs per game. Big reason why they've won 14 out of their 18 games this season. Fort Lee began the spring 10-1. Quick start right out of the gate for Coach Kraljic. 2-1 count. That is a line drive, and that's going to get all the way to the wall. That's going to go shopping at the gap. Fort Lee's going to have runners at second and third with 1 out here in the bottom of the second, threatening to expand upon their 1-run lead. A 1-out double there by Lasval. And that will send the top of the order back to hit here to begin the bottom of the second inning. First hit of the afternoon for Fort Lee. Lasval driving that one, got great connection and split in between the center fielder and the right fielder. And a curveball against the right-hand hitting Luke Kim. Kim is 0 for 1 and grounded out to short back in the first inning. Second double of the season for Lasval. Kim will get that one airborne. That should be enough to bring in a run, and it's going to bring in more as it falls away from the center fielder. That's going to plate home too. Kim is thinking of a triple. He slides head first, and he'll get there safely. A 2-run triple for Luke Kim, and Fort Lee extends their lead to a 3-0 margin here in the bottom of the second inning. That ball just kept on continuing to carry in right center field, left center field, I should say, and Marine trying to see if he could make a play, and then when it skittered in front of him, he was trying to make a barehanded play to maybe keep that to a double, and once it got past him, that allowed Kim that opportunity to slide in head first into third base and never really be in danger of being thrown out. Brings up Luke Senator. Senator was hit by a pitch back in the first at-bat. Senator driving that one to straightaway center field. Marine camps out underneath it, but that's going to be deep enough to do the job as a sac fly. Senator drives in the third run of the inning here with a sac fly to center field, and it's now a 4-0 lead for Fort Lee. So Luke produces RBI number 20 on the season with that long fly ball to center field. Brings up Stephen Kim, the second baseman, who's 0 for 1 with a ground out to third. First ball swinging, and that's a hot shot. Could not be fielded underneath the glove of the shortstop, Moeller. That's going to be a base hit for Stephen Kim, and now Fort Lee is really starting to thrive at home plate, having great connections, solid at Luke Senator blasted a straightaway center field sacrifice fly to drive in the additional run. And Fort Lee will lead by 4 as we head to the top of the third on a beautiful sunny afternoon here in Fort Lee. Four 0 lead for Fort Lee as we head to the top of the third inning here at the Sugarman Sports Complex. Dan Long, so glad he could join us here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. You're home for Bridgemen Athletics all school year long. And a breaking pitch falls into the strike zone for Bradley Lee, who's now been gifted 3 more runs to work with. Lee has given up only 1 hit, no runs through the first 2 innings, as he takes on Caden Moeller again. Moeller, the leadoff man, the shortstop for Cliffside Park, 0 for 1, went down looking with a strikeout back in his first plate appearance. Another strike on the curveball, and it's now a 1-2 count for Bradley Lee. Lee's 1-2. Just missing on the outside to even the count at 2-2. Lee has 1 strikeout. That was against Moeller to start off the game. 2-2. Fastball, ground ball. It's going to be just underneath the glove of the shortstop, Luke Kim, who was trying to range behind the second base bag. Even if he got to it cleanly, I don't know if he would have been able to have enough of an arm to throw out this speedy Moeller who was hustling his way down the line. So an infield hit there for Cliffside Park. Both of their hits have been of infield variety. But the leadoff hitter is on safely for the Red Raiders to begin the top of the third. Brings up the left fielder, John Raftopoulos. Raftopoulos flew out to Greenberg in right field back in the first inning. He's 0 for 1. .255 hitter on the season is Raftopoulos. Moeller's got 10 stolen bases on the season. You'd have to think that they're going to try to do something here. Raftopoulos is behind 0-2. Oh, 2 breaking pitch knocked down by Senator. The 1-2 count. Cliffside Park trying to get a win here to get back to 500 on the season. They're 10-11 on the season. Ground ball, base hit. As that will go into left field. So Raftopoulos with the first base hit that has left the infield here this afternoon. Back-to-back hits to begin the third inning for Cliffside Park. They've got runners at first and second with nobody out. Trying to claw their way back out of a 4-run hole. Brings up their third place hitter in the lineup, number 1, second baseman Derek Sanchez. Sanchez 0 for 1, grounded out to second base back in the first inning. Low pitch again, Senator doing a nice job of gloving that down. Sanchez, 302 hitter coming into today's action on the season. 11 RBIs and 19 hits on the year. Drops down the bunt. Looks like Cliffside Park trying to play a little small ball, maybe thinking about sacrificing here to move the runners to second and third and have only one out of the inning. One count against Derek Sanchez. Curveball now throwing behind the runner at second base, and they nearly made a pickoff play. That was Luke Kim trying to field that one behind the bag. 1-2 the count now against Sanchez. Have to think that the bunt is off at this point, because if Sanchez fouls that one off in a bunt attempt, that would be strike three. Hard hit ball, and that's going to be a base hit up the middle. Cliffside Park is going to look to score their first run of the game. The throw is cut off behind the pitching mound, and that is going to be an RBI single by Derek Sanchez with 2 strikes against him. 3 consecutive singles in this inning, and Cliffside Park is on the board for the first time this afternoon. It's a 4-1 lead for Fort Lee. Back-to-back hits have been stinging hits as well. Good, clean contact by the Red Raider hitters. Still nobody out in the inning. Cleanup hitter, Nick Ortiz, number 27. Ortiz grounded out to second base to begin the second inning. Takes that pitch on the outside. He's now ahead of the count, 2-0. Ortiz is the main RBI producer in this lineup. 24 RBIs on the season for Cliffside Park. Here's Ortiz jettisoning that one deep. Center field up and over the head of the center fielder. That will bounce up and over the fence. That will be a ground rule double and an RBI double for Nick Ortiz. 4 consecutive base hits for Cliffside Park. They're going to have runners at second and third, still with nobody out here in the top of the third inning. And that 4-run deficit has been shrunk in half. It's a 4-2 lead for Fort Lee. Ortiz with his 25th RBI of the season, his 5th double of the year. Tying run now in scoring position for Cliffside Park. As Brady Marine steps in, Marine is 0 for 1 with a ground out to third base in his first plate appearance of the day. Fastball missing on the outside, 1-1. So no one being fooled in this inning right now for Cliffside Park. 3 consecutive hard hits. That pitch missed on the inside. It's 2-1. At the infield single by Moeller to start off this inning, but then hard hits for the next 3 consecutive hitters. A miss on the outside, 3-1. So Lee really starting to struggle here in the top of the third inning for Fort Lee. And that's low, ball 4, and the bases are loaded with nobody out here in the top of the third inning. Second walk given up in this game by Lee. And now Fort Lee wants to settle down their pitcher and understand what the game plan is here with Cliffside Park having the bases loaded, nobody out. 2 runs already home here in the top of the third inning. Again, Fort Lee trying to go to 15-4 on the season. Keep pace with the 2 teams that are above them in the postseason Power Points rankings in North 1 Group 3. If the playoffs started today, the number 1 overall seed in this bracket would be Northern Valley Old Japan, followed by second-seeded Ramapo, and behind them, Fort Lee. So Fort Lee with a 3 seed would assure themselves potentially 2 home games in the state playoffs. But a loss here could put a top 4 seed in jeopardy. Cliffside Park will pop that one up, shallow center field, coming in to make the play. That time was CJ Senator, and that does not allow the runner to tag from third and score. That was a huge first out produced by Lee. One away here in the third. Brings up Magnico, the first baseman. Cole Magnico, the senior, 186 hitter on the season, drew a walk his first plate appearance in the second. Fastball too high, 2-0. Again, with the bases loaded, nowhere to put the first baseman for Cliffside Park. Ground ball could possibly get Lee out of the inning. There's the ground ball. Down to short, on to second for one, on to first. Could not be dug out, and that's going to allow another run to score. And now Cliffside Park has produced 3 runs in the inning. That looked like it was going to be the potential double play ball that Lee was hoping for. He got the runner out at second, but again, the low throw could not be snuck out of the turf by Sengo, so the inning remains. And now the tying run is down at third base, as that is line foul down the first base line. Jose Padron is the 8th place hitter in this lineup. The DH is 1 for 1, had the infield single his last inning. Couple of ground balls to the right side, now behind the count 0-2. 4 hits for Cliffside Park in this third inning alone. 5 hits on the game, 3 runs. And that pitch just missing low after Lee was looking for a called third strike. So Fort Lee scored 3 runs in the bottom of the second, immediately answering with 3 runs in the top of the third is Cliffside Park. And there is strike 3 called after Padron gets caught looking. So Lee will retire the side and strand that tying run down at third base. But Cliffside Park do strike for 3 runs in the top of the third inning, and that will send us to the bottom of the third with now Fort Lee's lead down to 1 at 4-3. So Fort Lee scoring 3 times in the second. Cliffside Park answers with 3 in the third, and now that brings us to the bottom of the third. And what was a 4-run lead at one point in this game is now shrunk to a 1-run lead for Fort Lee, as they'll have the 5, 6, and 7 hitters due up here to begin the bottom of the third. Leading off will be the right fielder, Jacob Greenberg. Greenberg drew a walk in his first plate appearance back in the first inning. Greenberg chasing after that slow breaking pitch on the outside from Padron, 0-1. A 1 missed on the outside, 1-1. Fort Lee in that last inning produced 3 runs on 3 hits, 2 of which were extra base variety. A double by Lasval And then a 2-run triple by Luke Kim. 1-2 count against Greenberg. Doesn't chase the curveball in the dirt that time. 2-2. Padrones 2-2. Hard hit ball, but hooked foul down the third base line. First of 2 meetings this season between the two arch rivals. They split their 2 games a season ago. Cliffside Park won at home 7-4. Fort Lee won here 10-0. Curveball missing a low into the outside as well. Count runs full at 3-2. Cliffside Park coming in off an 11-9 win against Woodridge on May 9th. And that's going to be ball 4, so Greenberg will take his base for the second time in this game, his second walk procured. And the leadoff man is on to begin the bottom of the third for Fort Lee. That'll bring up the center fielder, C.J. Senator, who's 0 for 1, flew out to left field to end the first inning. Fort Lee has already clinched a share of the Big North American Division Championship. Cliffside Park still has hopes of maybe having the other half of that league title if they could win today and also win on Wednesday. No room for error, though. 1 win in the next 2 games for Fort Lee will give them the outright league championship. Throw to first, not in time. This Fort Lee team with such an incredible record got into the Bergen County tournament this spring, hosted a first-round game. They defeated Woodridge. Throw over, not going to be completed. That's going to roll all the way into foul territory. And not only taking second, but also heading all the way down the third is Greenberg. So that is the second time that Cliffside Park has guessed correctly at when they were anticipating a Fort Lee runner to be trying to steal second. But that's also the second time that they've not been able to execute properly. That was a throwing error on the pickoff and allows Greenberg to steal second and also advance down to third on the throw. So a runner at third with nobody out in the bottom of the third inning. Chance Fort Lee to build on that lead again. Senator gets underneath that one. He'll fly that one. It continues to carry all the way to the wall. Right up against the fence. And Senator, blazing speed, will get all the way down for a triple. Second triple of the afternoon for Fort Lee. This time an RBI triple for C.J. Senator. And Fort Lee answers immediately with a run here in the bottom of the third to expand that lead to a 5-3 margin. C.J. Senator, again, the junior showing off the wheels there. That is his 3rd triple of the season, 2nd triple of the afternoon for Fort Lee. And after Greenberg got down to third base after he stole second and advanced on an error, he can easily crawl his way home after that one just kept on continuing to carry. It was kind of interesting because it happened right in front of our vantage point as we're located deep past center field and left center field, and we could see that the two outfielders were combining in, and they were a little surprised how the ball just continued to carry. I thought off the bat that that was going to be easily an out and sacrifice fly opportunity, but the ball just kept on going. So Senator drives in run number 19 on the season. 5-3 lead for Fort Lee, and it looks like it's going to be a pitching change and a new pitcher coming in the game for Cliffside Park. So a new pitcher into the game for Cliffside Park was their starting center fielder, Brady Marine. Marine, as we mentioned earlier in this game, 3-2 on the season with a 4.69 ERA. He's pitched 31 1/3 innings of work, giving up 25 hits, 22 runs, 21 of which have been earned, 31 strikeouts, 25 walks on the season. He pitched 2 innings of work, gave up no hits, no runs, 3 strikeouts, and 3 walks in receiving the win against Woodridge. So Matthew Padron didn't last long. Did not get an out here in the 3rd inning. Looks like Raftopoulos has now been moved to center field. And Samil Rodriguez is out in left field, where Raftopoulos began. So Fort Lee quickly produced another run, and now widen the gap to a 2-run margin. Jack Dorcom, the third baseman, steps in. Dorcom is 0 for 1 with a fly out to center field. Got a runner down at third base in front of him with nobody outs. 1 run already in here in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Beautiful day, a little on the chillier side. In the low 60s at opening pitch. But we're just thankful that there's no rain. 1-1 the count against Dorcom. Nico Sango waiting on deck for Fort Lee in this lineup. Again, just getting around their per game scoring average. They average just over 6 runs per game. They're at 5 right now. Low pitch taken outside the zone. 2-2 the count. Infield playing in for Cliffside Park. They're trying to cut down any chance here of scoring a run. And that's going to be a beautifully executed pitch. Strike 3 called. So Brady Marine comes in and retires the first hitter that he faces as Dorcom is retired. 1 away. First Cliffside Park produced strikeout of the afternoon. Brings up Nico Sango. Sango walked on 4 pitches in his first plate appearance in this game. Sango's produced 9 RBIs on the season, has a chance here. The runner down at third, 1 out. Sango empty on that swing. 1-1. Sango tomahawks that one down the left field line, and that's going to be a foul ball. Was looking for extra bases there, was just a little too early against Marine, who now is ahead of the count 1-2. Again, the infield playing in as they try to make sure no slow rollers could allow that runner to score from third. And again, strike 3 called. Sango goes down looking. So Marine has come into this game and has now struck out the first 2 he's faced and has a pathway out of the inning with 2 outs and a runner still down at third. Brings up the 9th place hitter, Gabe Lasval. Lasval had a double in his first plate appearance in the 2nd inning. He's 1 for 1. Marine has come into this game and is throwing strikes right now for Cliffside Park, exactly what the doctor ordered. He came into this game inheriting a runner down at third with nobody out. Now it's 2 outs and he's ahead of the count, 0-1. Now ahead of the count, 0-2 after the foul ball. If this inning could continue, it would flip the lineup, get to the top of the order for Fort Lee. Luke Kim waits on deck. Last foul, behind the count, 0-2. Swing and a miss, and Marine comes in, and he puts out the fire. Strikes out the side in the process, and strands that runner down at third base. So after 3 innings of play, Fort Lee leads arch-rival Cliffside Park by a score of 5-3 here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. As we get to the top of the 4th inning, first ball swing that time was Yael Rodriguez, the catcher. Rodriguez is 0 for 1 in this ball game. He grounded out to third base to end the 2nd inning. Lee quickly firing strikes, getting out in front 0-2. Bradley retired the first 5 consecutive batters he faced in order and then ran into a little trouble to end the 2nd inning, but got out of the inning unscathed and unscored upon. Did not have that same luxury in the 3rd inning. Surrendered 3 runs on 4 hits in that inning, but settled down and made sure that Cliffside Park did not have a chance to tie the score up. Time was called by the home plate umpire after Lee was in the middle of that windup, so that pitch did not count. 0-2 count. Fort Lee is led by as many as 4 in this game when it's 4-0. And there's a breaking ball. Strike 3 called. A knee buckler there. 3rd strikeout of the afternoon for Bradley Lee, and all 3 have been of backwards K variety, meaning that the hitter went down looking. 1 away to begin the 4th inning. He fires that fastball just a little too high against Caden Moeller, the shortstop and the leadoff hitter, who's 1 for 2 in this game. Had an infield single his last time up. Ground ball down to short, backhanded, that time by Kim, who throws over perfectly this time to retire Caden Moeller. So Luke Kim flashing off the leather there, and there's 2 away to begin the top of the 4th inning for Cliffside Park. Brings up John Raftopoulos, the left fielder. Started the game, I should say, at left field. He's now in center after Marine was moved to pitcher. Curveball was a little too high that time, 1-0. Raftopoulos had a base hit his last time up in the 3rd. He's 1 for 2. Lee trying to produce a second 1-2-3 inning of this afternoon. He did that in the first inning against Cliffside Park. Raftopoulos swings and misses that time. Behind the count, 1-2. And that's going to be strike three called. Inside corner. Another backwards K there for Bradley Lee. He struck out 2 in that inning. And he retires Cliffside quickly. 1-2-3 in order. We head to the bottom of the fourth inning. It remains a 5-3 lead for Fort Lee. To the bottom of the fourth inning we go here at the Sugarman Sports Complex. Fort Lee leading Cliffside Park 5-3 as they bat in the bottom of the fourth inning. It will once again be the leadoff hitters. 1, 2, and 3 due up here for the Bridgemen. Brady Marine was impressive when he came into the game after starting in center field. Marine struck out the side in the first 3 hitters that he faced, stranding a runner down at third base in the process. Check swing, fouled into the backstop, and now it's quickly 0-2 the count against Luke Kim. Kim is 1 for 2 in this game. His last time up in the second inning delivered a big blow. A 2-run triple for Kim. Marine missing high, 1-2. Kim driving in RBIs, number 10 and 11 on the season. Now trying to slash that one to the right side and does so into the parking lot. Foul. Kim, .345 batting average on the season for the freshman. He is going to be one to watch for years to come. Good eye at the plate there. Doesn't chase that one outside the zone. 2-2. Kim picking up his 20th hit of the season in that triple. And he was lunging that time, and he could not cover the outside edge. That's going to be a strikeout looking. And Marine has now struck out 4 in a row since coming in this game out of the pen. He has not only produced 4 consecutive outs, but have been of dominant variety, striking out all 4 hitters. So now Luke Senator will step in. Senator got hit by a pitch in the first, flew out to center field his last time up, but that was a productive out that drove in a run. Luke has been the leading hitter all season long for Fort Lee, a .558 batting average. He's behind here, though, 0-2. Marine has looked awfully sharp here for Cliffside Park. Hard hit ball, backhanded here by Moeller at short, will throw across in time as Senator is retired. And now there's 2 away with no one on base in the bottom of the 4th inning. That was the first ball that was put in play against Marine. who has retired 5 in a row to start off as the second pitcher of record in this game for Cliffside Park. Brings up Stephen Kim. Kim is 1 for 2 and a base hit his last time up in the second inning. Also grounded out to third back in the first inning. Will 5 runs be enough here for Fort Lee? You always have to think that you have to tack on. Easier said than done against Marine, who has been mowing them down. He's fallen behind here, though, 2-0 against Kim, with 2 outs and nobody on in the bottom of the home fourth. Chopped foul on the third base side. Two and one. Now 3-1 in favor of Stephen Kim. Fort Lee 5 runs on 4 hits in this game, and there's going to be a walk, so the first base runner to reach safely against Brady Marine. It was Stephen Kim's 2-out walk. Keeps the inning going here for the Bridgemen. 4th walk of the game given up by Cliffside Park pitching. That'll bring up Chris Kim, the DH. Kim reached on an error in the first, also grounded out to third his last time up in the second. Marine will step off the rubber and step back on to reset himself. Pickoff attempt. That has really not been in the arsenal defensively for Cliffside Park here today. Twice they've tried to pick off Fort Lee, and twice they've allowed stolen bases. Pitch missing high to the outside, 1-0. Marine again checking in over at first base. Stephen Kim easily getting back in safely. Kim will pop that one skyward. Settled underneath it, making the play at second base was Sanchez to retire the side. So no runs, no hits, 1 left on base. We head to the top of the 5th inning. 5-3 lead for Fort Lee in this rivalry showdown here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. We head to the 5th inning. Again, we'd like to thank our proud sponsors, the Fort Lee PBA, Cofasa's Fairway Market, The Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, Roosin and DeRue Electric, Bridgemen Basketball Camp, Fort Lee VFW, Visions Federal Credit Union, It's Greek to Me, Connect One Bank, Bergen Black Sox, Senator Builders, UCS Strength and Speed, The Collective Salon, and the Fort Lee Education Association. Quick innings for the both pitchers in that 4th inning. That'll send us to the 5th. Cliffside Park trailing by 2, 5-3. Derek Sanchez, the second baseman, is 1 for 2. Had a single his last time up. He was behind the count 1-2, and he muscled one right up the middle. Bradley Lee, the starting pitcher, still in the game here for Fort Lee. Behind the count 1-0 against Sanchez. Fastball in for a strike to make it 1-1. Curveball broke too far to the outside. Didn't get close to the plate to have Sanchez maybe chase after it. Now 2-1. Lee got roughed up in the third inning, gave up 3 runs on 4 hits, yet still is in the lead. Round ball in between hop, fielded there by the shortstop. Throw is offline, and that will allow the leadoff runner to get on safely to begin the 5th inning. That was a tough play for Luke Kim. He tried to rush it over to first base, and his throw was not on line. That'll be an error against the shortstop, his second error of the game. Sanchez on base safely for the second consecutive at-bat. That brings up Nick Ortiz. Ortiz had an RBI double his last time up. Drove it all the way to straightaway center field, and it did a one-hop over the fencing for a ground rule double. Lee bouncing another one in the dirt. Senator couldn't find it, and that's going to allow Sanchez to scamper down to second base with nobody out. Two 2-0 count in favor of Ortiz. Taking all the way for a strike that time. Ortiz not happy with that. Shaking his head vociferously. Ortiz drove in his 25th RBI of the season. Hit that RBI double back in the third. Now ahead of the count 3-1. If Ortiz gets on, then the tying run is on base for Cliffside Park, batting here in the top of the 5th inning. Swing and a miss. Beautiful pitch there. Got Ortiz well out in front. He was anticipating fastball. Got the off speed instead. Now it's full count 3-2. Three-two. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Beautiful pitches there executed by Bradley Lee. After Lee had fallen behind 3-1 and made some big-time pitches to get the full count and then eventually finish Ortiz off with a strikeout. First swing and a miss strikeout in this game after the first 4 strikeouts produced before that were of gone down looking variety. Brady Marine, the pitcher now, getting his first plate appearance. Time called by Marine. Oh, and 1 count against Marine, who's 0 for 1 with a walk in this game, and now he's upset because that's an inside corner strike and he's behind 0-2. Sanchez down at second base. The 0-2 pitch. Outside corner, just a little too far off the plate, and that's going to be a ball, 1-2. 1-2 again, floated just outside the edge. Lee trying to see if he could expand that strike zone a bit and get Marine to go chasing. Marine has not done that in the last 2. It's now 2-2. Fouls that one straight back. It'll do it again at 2-2. Lee's 2-2. Ground ball down to third, and that gets down past the glove of the third baseman, Dorcom. Will not be that far away. Good backup on the play by Fort Lee. That will not allow the runner to make the turn and score. They had to hold to see whether or not, first off, it was a fair ball and if it was going to get past the third baseman. So a base hit for Brady Marine. Have runners at the corners with one out here in the top of the fifth inning. So the tying runs are on base now here for the Red Raiders. Six hits in this game now for Cliffside Park as Victor Freitas, the right fielder, steps in. Freitas reached on an error in the second, flew out to center field his last time up in the third. Fouled straight back and quickly Lee ahead of the count now 0-2. Ground ball could possibly get a double play. Little action going on down the line, left field line in the bullpen for Fort Lee. And that time it looks like Freitas got hit by the pitch. And that will load the bases full of Cliffside Park hitters. So Freitas was behind in the count and Lee lost control. Freitas gets plunked and now it's bases loaded with one out. First hit batter in this game for Bradley Lee. Magnetico fouls that into the backstop. 0-1 the count. Cole Magnetico, the senior, 4 RBIs on the season. Big opportunity here for number 23 in black. As he tries to calm himself down, you can kind of see in your picture that he was just even motioning with a hand to just settle down. Swing and a miss after he's chasing the high heat. So despite telling himself what to do, he went against his own good advice. Now he's behind quickly 0-2. Swing and a miss, and good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Bradley Lee quickly produces a strikeout and now has a pathway out of the inning. 2 outs in the inning, bases loaded for Cliffside Park batting here, down by 2 in the top of the 5th inning. Jose Padron will step in. Padron grounds it to short. That gets bobbled, and that's going to allow a run to score. Luke Kim could not field it cleanly. That was a hard-hit ground ball. And Cliffside Park once again pulls back to within 1 in this game, after Fort Lee was not able to cleanly field it in their infield. Brings up Yael Rodriguez, 9th place hitter in the lineup. Rodriguez 0 for 2, grounded out to third, also struck out looking. A strike against Rodriguez. Again, bases remain loaded. 0-1 count. 2 outs here in the top of the 5th. 5-4 lead for Fort Lee. Swing and a miss again by Rodriguez. And Lee now 1 strike away from getting through 5 innings and still maintaining a lead in this game. 0-2, strike 3 called. So Bradley Lee strikes out the side. He does surrender a run in that top of the 5th inning. But it still remains a lead for Fort Lee, now back down to 1. It's 5-4 as we head to the bottom of the 5th. Bottom of the fifth inning, Fort Lee once again sees their lead cut down to 1. They led in this game 4-0. Cliffside Park would pull back to within 1 at 4-3. Fort Lee would extend their lead to a 5-3 margin and now see it slimmed down once again to 1 at 5-4. 5, 6, and 7 hitters due up here in the bottom of the fifth inning for the Bridgemen. They've had their struggles dealing with Brady Marine since Marine was given the baseball after Fort Lee had taken a 5-3 advantage and had a runner at third with nobody out. Marine then struck out the side coming into that bottom of the third inning. And then in the last inning, gave up his first base runner on a walk. But again, quick work for him. He's done a nice job of settling things down pitching-wise for Cliffside Park and making this a one-run game. Jacob Greenberg will step in. He has been issued 2 free passes in this game. Came around to score his last time up after CJ Senator drove him home with that RBI triple. Greenberg behind in the count now 0-1. Low pitch. 1-1. Again, so much on the line here as we're nearing the middle of the month of May. Swing and a miss. Trying to go upstairs was Greenberg. Could not lay off. 1-2. A win this afternoon for Fort Lee at home would give them the outright Big North American Division Championship. Greenberg lays off that off speed in the dirt. 2-2. A win would also give more and more power points for Fort Lee as the Bridgemen in position right now to be one of the top 4 seeds in the North 1 Group 3 state playoffs. And time is running out in terms of your body of work in the regular season that can improve upon your PowerPoint total. So we're nearing the deadline. 3-2, and Marine loses Jacob Greenberg to a walk, and Jacob eagle-eyed at the plate here today, not swinging at things outside the zone. He has earned his 3rd walk of the afternoon. And once again, the leadoff man is on to begin a frame for Fort Lee. Fifth walk of the game surrendered by Cliffside Park pitching. Second walk given up by Marine. CJ Senator. Senator had that blast of a shot that just kept on carrying, as we said last time. Went to left center field, allowed Greenberg to score from third base rather easily. Senator also flew out to left field back in the first inning. CJ behind 0-1. Again, some more action going on down in the bullpen. Luke Kim, number 20, is getting warmed up. He's been playing at short for Fort Lee. That one is sent on a line drive to right field and the outs. And scampering back to make sure he's not doubled up was Greenberg. So Senator is retired on the line drive out to right field, 1 away. Freitas doing a nice job of maneuvering in the outfield, getting to that spot and throwing back in to see maybe if he would have an opportunity at a double play. Brings up Jack Dorcom. Throw to first, not in time after Greenberg gets back in safely. Dorcom is 0 for 2, flew out to center field, also went down looking with the strikeout his last at bat in the third. Dorcom is swinging with a runner, was in motion. And Greenberg has to slowly make his way back to first. He had a great jump on that lead down to second base. That would have been easy pickings for a stolen base for Greenberg. Dorcom behind in the count, 0-1. Dorcom trying to saw that one off, and he does so into the parking lot behind the first base line. Foul ball. Oh, 2. Missing outside and wide, 1-2. Fort Lee will once again play Cliffside Park in a couple days' time at Cliffside Park on Wednesday. Throw over once again. The throw gets away from the first baseman. That's going to allow Fort Lee to advance down to second. A little bit of hesitancy that time by Greenberg. Didn't know whether or not to try to really take advantage and get down to third. He's content with standing down at second. That is the third time in this game that has been a failed pickoff attempt by Cliffside Park pitcher that has led to extra bases for Fort Lee. Can the Bridgemen make them pay? Dorcom behind in the count now, 1-2. With one out here in the bottom of the fifth. Osby gets away from the catcher. And all the way down to third base now is Greenberg. So Greenberg has stolen a couple of bases in this game and have also benefited by a little sloppy defense. Now it's 2-2 the count with a runner down at third base. And there looks to be a meeting at the mound here for Cliffside Park as they want to go over the game plan of what they want to do against Jack Dorcom here with a runner down at third, one out in the inning, and a 5-4 advantage on the board here for Fort Lee batting in the bottom of the fifth inning. So after the meeting, it's a 2-2 count, one out, runner down at third. Infield playing in. Dorcom fouls that one into the cage. Again, 2-2. Outfield playing shallow. If Dorcom can get something in the air, there's a very good chance of having a sacrifice fly and getting that insurance run home. Marine looking for a big second out. Marines 2-2. There's the fly ball that Fort Lee was looking for. Deep ball to right field. Tagging from third. Here's the throw home, not in time. Scoring standing up on the sacrifice fly is Greenberg. And Fort Lee with that enormous insurance run now takes back a 2-run lead at 6-4. So an absolute perfect play there by Dorcom. Got exactly what he was looking for. A fly ball, deep. And Greenberg doesn't even have to slide to score that run from third. Nico Sengo, the first baseman, stepping in. Sengo takes low and outside for a ball, 1-0. Nico drew a walk in the second inning and then went down looking with a strikeout in the third. Sengo will bloop this one, but not an up and over the head of the second baseman Sanchez as he camps out underneath that one for the third out of the inning. But Fort Lee answers the run at the top of the fifth inning with a run here at the bottom of the fifth inning. We head to the sixth with Fort Lee on top of Cliffside Park, 6-4. To the sixth inning we go. Fort Lee on top, 6-4. As the Bridgemen trying once again to bring home a league championship here against their arch rival. Bradley Lee still with the baseball in his clutches to begin the sixth inning. First ball swinging there was Moeller. Leadoff man is 1 for 3 this afternoon. Struck out looking in the first. Infield hit in the third, and then grounded out to short his last time up in the fourth. That one popped out of the glove of the catcher, but was still enough for a strike. It's 0-2. Luke Senator goes to retrieve that one. I think he was a little incredulous as well that it hit off the lip of his glove the way it did. 0-2 count against Moeller. That one is fouled into the top of the cage. Moeller keeps alive here. Moeller got everything started in the third inning with a base hit as the leadoff man. Trying to do so again here in the sixth, but he will be unable to do so. Was guessing fastball, got a nasty curveball instead. And there's one out here to begin the sixth. Lee has gotten stronger as this game has progressed, fans. He's now up to 8 strikeouts here this afternoon. He had only 2 strikeouts through the first 3 innings of play. Now up to 8 punch-outs. As that's fouled into the top of the cage by Raftopoulos. Was a strikeout victim in his last at-bat in the 4th inning. 1 for 3 in this game is John Raftopoulos. Ducks out of the way of that pitch outside the zone, 1-1. Curveball again, a nasty breaking pitch. Raftopoulos, just like his cohort Moeller, was thinking fastball and was well out in front. 1-2 the count now. Ground ball chopped at. Still 1-2. One, two, hot shot. That's going to be a base hit and extra bases down the third baseline. The throw is not going to be in time to second base, and it's going to be a one-out double by John Raftopoulos. His second base hit of the game, and the second time that we've seen Cliffside Park just sneak it fair down the third base line right next to the third base bag. Seventh hit of the game for the Red Raiders. Derek Sanchez, the second baseman, reached on an error his last time up. He's been on base safely twice in this game. Spits on that pitch in the dirt. 1-0 in his favor. Sanchez was retired on a ground ball to second base back in the first inning. Had a base hit in the third. And then the error by the shortstop in the fifth allowed him get on base. Missing on the outside, now 2-0 in favor of Sanchez. If he gets on base, he would be the tying run. Little slow roller is going to be trouble again by the third baseman. Can't throw it correctly, and he throws it away from the first baseman. In foul territory, that's going to allow a run to score, and the tying run heads down to second base here in the sixth. Dorcom was not going to be able to throw out Sanchez on the slow roller, but what he did do is throw it away and allow the runner to score. and put Sanchez down in scoring position at second base. And it looks like we will have a new pitcher coming in this ball game now here for Fort Lee, with one out and one run home here in the top of the sixth inning. Once again, a one-run ball game, 6-5 lead for Fort Lee, with a new pitcher coming on here for Coach Pete Kraujic. So a new pitcher into the game now for Fort Lee is the starting shortstop, Luke Kim. So Luke Kim has moved to pitch. Kim is 1-0 on the season with a 1.20 ERA. He has pitched 11 2/3 innings of work, 7 hits, allowed only 2 runs, 15 strikeouts on the season. Tying run is down at second base with 1 out here in the 6th inning. And he fires that one for a ball, 1-0 against the dangerous Nick Ortiz. Ortiz, the leading RBI producer on the year for Cliffside Park, added to that total with an RBI double in the 3rd. He's 1 for 3. That one floats in for a strike, 1-1. Kim again gets that inside corner for a strike and gets ahead of the bat, 1-2. That one gets away from Senator. Sanchez trying to venture down to third. That was a mistake. But he still was able to manage to get in safely. Or are they going to say that he was thrown out there? Looks like he was. Initially, he was staying on the third base bag. The throw was well out in front of him to retire him. He didn't leave until a little bit ago. So a big mistake there by Sanchez. Did not get away that far away from Senator, who throws him out, trying to advance down to third. Now 2 outs in the inning. And a swing and a miss and a strike 3. Chasing that one upstairs was Ortiz. So coming into the game with a tying run down at second base, Luke Kim gets the benefit of a little help from his catcher, throwing out Sanchez, trying to advance down to third, and then does the rest of the work himself by producing the strikeout of Ortiz. So Cliffside Park adds a run to their total, but they still trail as we head to the bottom of the 6th inning. It's a 1-run lead once again for Fort Lee. So a big play there by Luke Senator, throwing out Sanchez, trying to advance on the pass ball down to third base. That produced the second out of the inning. And then the third out was procured by the strikeout swinging elicited by the fastball upstairs of Luke Kim. So after Cliffside Park had the tying run down in scoring position with only one out, they have to settle for only one run. Now Fort Lee knows that they have to get to some work here, producing some insurance runs. It's been a nail-biter between these arch rivals. 6-5 lead for Fort Lee. Last foul will pop up the first pitch that he sees. One pitch, one out produced here in the bottom of the sixth inning. Moeller, the shortstop, ranged over to make that play. Marine has been sensational since coming to this game after beginning as the starting center fielder. He has shut down the door for the most part against Fort Lee. Has given up only one run in relief. Brings up Luke Kim. Kim swinging and missing. He's 1 for 3 in this game with a 2-run triple back in the second inning. Luke Senator waits on deck. Fort Lee scored once in the first, 3 in the second, once in the third, and once more in the fifth, accounting for their 6 runs. Only 4 hits this afternoon. Here's a slow grounder. Bobble there by Moeller and double clutched. And they're going to say out. So despite not having a clean fielding of that, Moeller showed off the arm strength that he still, even with the double clutch, was able to accurately throw out Luke Kim trying to get on base. And now there's 2 away with no one on here in the bottom of the 6th inning. That was an impressive play, showing off the arm strength there for Moeller. Brings up Luke Senator. Senator sees that one go in or outside the strike zone for a ball, 1-0. Luke got hit by a pitch in the first inning, had a sacrifice fly in the second, and grounded out to short his last time up in the 4th inning. So a rare afternoon that has seen Luke Senator not produce a hit. His next hit would be his 30th of the season. Fouled that one off of his foot. Now 1-2 against Senator. "14 extra base hits this season for Luke as well. 2 home runs, 11 doubles, and 1 triple. He's behind in the at-bat, 1-2. Drives that one out to left field, and underneath that one to make the putout is Samil Rodriguez. And it's a quick 1-2-3 6th inning produced by Brady Marine. And that will send us to the top of the 7th inning. Fort Lee 3 outs away from producing a league championship. Stick around, fans, for the exciting 7th inning here on YouTube. So Luke Kim is going to be entrusted with trying to finish things off here for Fort Lee and trying to get the final 3 outs of the game. A.J. Papavisilou came in as the new shortstop for Fort Lee once they moved Luke Kim to the pitching mound. So Cliffside Park has been trying to fight and claw its way back throughout the course of this game. They fell behind 4-0 after the first 2 innings. A couple of times now in this game, they've gotten to within 1, but they've never been able to produce a tying or go-ahead run in this game. Cliffside Park has been trying to find their way to draw even here today. 5, 6, and 7 hitters due up here in the top of the 7th inning. And Brady Marine, one of their standout players, who's been exceptional since coming in from center field as a pitcher to keep this within striking distance, he'll try to do something here as a hitter. Fastball for a strike by Luke Kim, 0-1. Marine had a base hit his last time up. Also drew a walk in the 3rd, grounded out to 3rd in the 2nd inning. Marine had to duck for cover there. Kim almost hit him. And you don't want to do that in a 1-run ball game. 1-1 count. Little chin music there. Upstairs, 2-1. Again, Luke Kim, 1-0 on the season, a 1.20 ERA. 16 strikeouts on the season with only 4 walks. That time, he spiked that in the dirt. He lost his footing, and now he's in danger of losing the first hitter to face him in the 7th. He's behind 3-1. Inside corner for a strike, and the count is run full at 3-2. Time called by the home plate umpire. 3-2 count. Leadoff hitter here in the top of the 7th inning. 6-5 lead for Fort Lee on top of Cliffside Park. That one is too high. Ball 4, and the tying run is on base with nobody out here to begin the top of the 7th inning. Third walk of the game given up by Fort Lee pitching. Now the question is, does Cliffside Park play a little small ball here and see a sacrifice bunt to try to get Marine in scoring position? They don't offer it a bunt, what we see there on the curveball, and they take a ball outside the zone, 1-0. Freitas did not give up what his intentions are. 1-0. Goes in for a strike, 1-1. Freitas has reached base safely twice on an error and getting hit by a pitch. Also flew out to center field. Ducks out of the way, 2-1 count. And now a brief meeting at the mound. Stephen Kim trying to calm down Luke Kim. That pitch missing low, 3-1. So Kim has already surrendered a walk in this inning. Another walk would move the tying run down to second base with nobody out here in the top of the 7th. 3-1, miss low, ball 4. So Luke Kim came into this game having surrendered only 4 walks on the season, and he's now given up 2 walks in this game alone. So runners at first and second with nobody out in the top of the 7th inning. Tying run down at second base. Now I would not be surprised if Cliffside Park decides to drop down a bunt here, try to get runners down to second and third with one out in the inning. And a meeting at the mound here for Fort Lee to try to go over where is the play that has to be made. Maybe that they're even talking about this same scenario of if a bunt is dropped down, do you aggressively try to go for that lead runner going down to third base, or do you try to take a sure-handed out and hope that Kim can get out of trouble, even if it's runners at second and third with one out in the inning? It's a one-run lead here for Fort Lee. Bridgemen have been sensational all spring. 14-4 record. Trying to clinch the Big North American Division title. Cole Magnetico offers at it with a bunt and fouls it straight back. 0-1 the count. Magnetico drew a walk in the second inning, hit into a fielder's choice in the third, and struck out swinging his last time up in the fifth. Kim would certainly love to get a strikeout here. Dead end bunt. That is a perfect placement, and that's going to be an infield hit. A bunt single, and the bases are loaded for Cliffside Park here in the top of the 7th inning, down by 1. Could not ask for better placement on that bunt to the third base side, just out beyond the grasp of the pitcher Kim. And when he fielded it, he had no play to make. Eighth hit of the game for Cliffside Park. Brings up Jose Padron. A single, a strikeout, and reached on an error. Peel down to the umpire behind the pitcher, and they say that he did not go around 1-1. Nowhere to put him. Cliffside Park's dugout chanting here. Fastball outside corner for a strike, 1-2. Fort Lee looking for that first out of the inning. Tying run down at third base. Fouled straight back by Padron. Staying alive in this at-bat, 1-2. A 1-2. Fouled straight back into the cage, again 1-2. Kim has one strikeout, has given up 2 walks and a bunt single since coming into this game after starting as the starting shortstop. Looking for an enormous out here. Curveball, strike 3 called. There is the enormous strikeout, and now there's one away. 10th strikeout for Fort Lee pitching here this afternoon. That brings up the 9th place hitter in the lineup, Yael Rodriguez, the catcher, who's 0 for 3 with a pair of strikeouts. He ducks for cover that time as it goes too high, 1-0. Bases remain loaded here for Cliffside Park. Pop-up, shallow center field. Ranging back to make the play is the second baseman. Not deep enough to allow the runner to tag from third. And now there's 2 outs in the inning. And disaster was avoided there after it looked like it was going to be a collision between Stephen Kim and his center fielder, Senator. A huge second out. Bases remain loaded. Top of the order we go. Shortstop, Caden Moeller. Moeller 1 for 4 in this game. Kim fires that one for a strike to get ahead of the count, 0-1. Kim trying to hunker down here after the bases were loaded with nobody out. 0-1. Missing high, 1-1. Strikeout looking and a pop-up to shallow center field, accounting for back-to-back outs. That breaking ball missing in the dirt, 2-1. A walk would bring in the tying run for Cliffside Park here in the top of the 7th. Two 1. Missing high. 3-1. Again, nowhere for Luke Kim to put him. 3 straight outside the strike zone for Kim after he got ahead 0-1. That is a ball knocked out by the second baseman. Throw to first in time. A Houdiniac there by Fort Lee. They somehow got out of that trouble. What a play by Stephen Kim, diving over with the bases loaded. If that snuck by him, that would have probably given Cliffside Park the lead and definitely would have tied the game. A sprawling defensive effort, threw over to first in time, and somehow Fort Lee, with the bases loaded and nobody out, were able to get the 3 final outs and with it win the Big North American Division Championship. What a play there by Stephen Kim to help out Luke Kim get out of an absolute jam. And Fort Lee holds on to win by a 6-5 final in a thriller here at the Sugarman Sports Complex. Fort Lee with a win will improve to 15-4 overall on the season and remain perfect in league play, 7-0, clinching the division championship. Cliffside Park with the defeat will fall to 10-12 on the season and 4-3 in league play. These two teams will renew acquaintances in a couple of days as they will take on one another in Cliffside Park on Wednesday. But again, Fort Lee with a thrilling finish here at home. Cliffside Park, bases loaded, nobody out. But then Luke Kim settled down. A strikeout, a pop-up, and then getting that last one, a ground ball out, and a thrilling victory here in front of family and friends. So that'll do it for our broadcast coverage here of Fort Lee baseball as the Bridgemen continue to roll here in this special spring season. We'd like to thank again our proud sponsors of our broadcast coverage, the Fort Lee PBA, Cafaso's Fairway Market, The Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, Roosin and Daru Electric, Bridgemen Basketball Camp, the Fort Lee VFW, Visions Federal Credit Union, It's Greek to Me, Connect One Bank, Bergen Black Sox, Senator Builders, UCS Strength and Speed, the Collective Salon, and the Fort Lee Education Association. So for Renee Matisich and our producer, Dimitri Nanis, I'm Dan Long saying so long, take care, and we'll see you next time here on YouTube.